about, question. We're going to go to more deep about karma and about purifying. We might touch on emptiness again, we'll see. And then we'll discuss how all this fits with compassion as well. So any questions, people? Yes.
I would like to know how much, what effect do it has about others' karma, not only humans but also animals. Humans also seem to be harder.
We can see how we affect others, but we can see how we affect others. If we're angry, we hurt others. If we're kind, we help others. So it's not complicated. What do you mean? More than that, what do you mean? More than that, what do you mean? Huh? Okay. I'll wait till everyone comes and sits down and relaxes. Where are all these people? They gone home or something? Are they coming back?
Looks like they're here. They're just
Okay.
wondering.
Okay, good. All right, okay. So the bottom line is, at the time a sentient being dies, the karmic seed that will be the one that determines your next life will be triggered. Okay? So the bottom line for all sentient beings is, at the time of death, you want a virtuous karmic seed to be triggered so they get a decent human life. Very least. You with me? That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. As Lama Zopa says, if you want to help anybody, help them at the time of death. And part of the logic of that is that every second of this life is the fruit of the past. So as it's happening, it's running out. It's finishing, isn't it? Do you get my point? But at the same time, each second we're sowing new seeds that will bring the future. So we're creating billions of seeds every day. We're creating countless numbers of seeds. Most of them negative, because we're not very highly realized beings. Certainly animals can only create negative karma. They can't create virtuous karma. And I'll explain all this. So we've all got lots of seeds in there, buried down. So the very least we can do, the wish is that at the time of death for that animal, that you give it a condition that will be peaceful so that it can activate a virtuous karmic seed. So because of the power of enlightened beings, and because every single thing we see and hear, especially those two senses, leaves an impression in the mind, then the very least we wish is that the animal will have that condition that will trigger a virtuous karmic seed, one of its own, so that when it dies, it'll get a human body. Now, that's the best way to help the animal. So you can have an animal, and you can feed it and love it and give it psychiatry and give it pension funds and lovely holidays in a nice dog home. Very nice, but that's not helping him. It makes him happy now. It's just feeding his attachment. You've got to help its mind. Do you understand? So how you help its mind? It can't do anything itself, so you've got to put good imprints in its mind. Do you understand that? And it's the same for your grandma, same for babies, same for senile people, same for everybody. To help them create some... So humans, at least we can intentionally decide to be virtuous and kind. So the best way to help people is to help them be virtuous, but it's very hard work. You can't force, you know. Do you get my point? Do you understand the point? You think? Okay, that's fine. Yes. Yes, sweetheart, back there.
Animals. Why animals are generating negative...
Can't hear you, darling.
Why animals are generating negative karma, negative imprints? Because as far as I can see them, they are really here and now, and they are... For me, I mean...
Okay, I understand. The Buddha's view of an animal's mind is that it cannot access any virtue. That's why its suffering is so unbearable. We've got ego grasping. We have attachment, we have anger, we have pride, we have jealousy, we have all the dramas, haven't we? But if we're fortunate as humans, like I've been saying, we can also access intelligence. We can make choices. We can change. We can stop being angry. We can be kind to others. We can be intelligent. We can think about dependent arising. We can sow powerful virtuous seeds in our mind. An animal cannot do that. So they only create negative karma, and 1 billion times heavier than ours, because their ignorance is so primordial. Okay, I know it's not how we think, but that's using Buddha's model of the mind, refers to all beings, all the mice, all the dogs, all the hell beings, all the humans. It's the same model, and we've all got delusions. And so, do you hear that point? This is this model, Buddha's model. So it's only, they have ignorance, and they have attachment, and they have aversion. Look at the behavior of most animals. kill, slaughter, harm, panic, fear, eat each other. I'm not saying humans don't, but at least humans can have if we're fortunate, we can access virtue and change. Animals can't change. They're so profoundly stuck in their delusions. That's the reason to have so much compassion for them. Hang on a second. Yeah? Sorry, but I beg your pardon, what?
I see animals that are not doing any harm.
Which ones? Give example. No, they're totally ignorant. They're creating negative karma every millisecond. By following attachment. We are creating negative karma most of the time by following attachment, but we don't even think of it like that. We don't think we're doing anything wrong. We don't even understand attachment. Theirs is 1 billion times heavier than ours. So their karma is and because the ego grasping is heavier, they're grasping at things as real as 1 billion times heavier. So the karma is 1 billion times stronger. This is Buddha's view, not our view. It's different. You've got to think about it.
No, I know, but I was in another retreat. That's why I'm asking the question, because I thought that if I'm not doing anything harm, even if I'm ignorant, I'm not having a negative imprint into my next.
Oh, God, no. Good heavens, no. No, sweetheart, we might not kill or lie or harm any sentient being, but we're following attachment. We eat when we feel like it. We sleep when we feel like it. We're lazy when we feel like it. We see things as real. We think as external. We go up and down like yo-yos. We don't work on our minds. Come on. Humans, even though our view of normal is for Buddha an intense level of suffering. We've got to get used to that. We've got to try and get that perspective. Harming others is not the only way you create negative karma. Oh my God, that's the worst way. Creating negative karma every second, following attachment. Every time we eat, every time we have sleep, go to the toilet, do anything, because we're mindless and on autopilot, we don't think about it as being empty. We don't think of bodhicitta. We just follow it. That's called negative karma. We get born in the lower realms because of it. Most humans on this planet right now, when they die, will be born in the lower realms. It's shocking to us, but I'm just trying to give you the technical explanations of Buddha's view. That's all. You've got to look at what he means by these things. It's not. Do you understand my point? We've got to really, really what it means. It's quite subtler than we would tend to think. Do you understand? Yes.
Yes. For humanity.
Sorry, darling?
For humanity.
For humanity?
Yes. Can smile.
Huh?
Can smile.
What, sweetheart?
Can smile.
Can
smile.
Can smile. Can smile.
Who can?
For humanity.
Humans.
Yes.
Okay, so then?
Animal.
Yes.
They can't smile.
They can't smile.
Yeah. And the exit is the best exit. How to exit is to smile.
Oh, is it? Well, okay, I should tell Buddha that. He might have missed that one. But Buddha's saying, if your mind has not got ignorance, and you haven't got attachment, and you haven't got jealousy, and you haven't got pride and anger, you'll be smiling all the time.
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Thank you. Who else? Something else, some point. Nothing, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Merciful killing.
Give me an example of a merciful killing. What does it mean?
Someone who's very sick.
Yep.
Let's take a cat,
Yes.
and he can't tell you because a person can tell you.
Yes.
So if he can't tell you, but he's suffering,
Yes, that's right.
and moreover, even more than that,
Uh-huh.
you see that they are trying to die.
Are
like
they?
Not eating.
I see, okay.
Just
Yes,
lying
yes,
somewhere,
yes, right.
and you're not letting them.
I understand, that's right. So what's so the question is, what's the question? Go.
Supposed to help them.
Okay, good. So remember I said here before what I said? Did you hear what I said to her?
Yeah.
Give me a sense of what you heard me say. I'm not trying to test you, but I want to hear if I've been communicating. What's your name? Miriam. Oh, yeah, Miriam. So what was I saying to Miriam? What was the essential way to help animals? What did you hear me say? Do you remember?
That I can't help, actually. In the time
No, wait, please stop. Excuse me. You heard me say that.
that the only thing I can do is show her symbols of things.
Or let her hear things. Because she can't change her own mind.
Yeah.
That's true, isn't it? So, but the point is, okay, I'll say it again in a different way. For all beings, the way they describe the death process for all of us, at the time we stop, just about before we stop breathing, at that point is when this whole technical thing happens, that all the conditions come together, and where one of the billions of karmic seeds that we've all got in our little bank vaults, animals, dogs, humans, everybody, one of those will be triggered, which will be the one that then determines your next life. So in our case, we can all say a few weeks before we went into our mummy's womb, our human mummy's womb, we must have had a relatively reasonable death. Our mind must have been peaceful and virtuous at that period before we stop breathing, because that's the condition that's necessary in order to trigger a virtuous karmic seed, which in our case it was, and that's why we got programmed to go to a human womb as opposed to a dog womb or a bird's egg or an insect's egg. So to die peacefully and virtuously, to have your mind peaceful and spacious, and that can be triggered by hearing virtuous things, positive things, seeing things. So for your animal, for example, the best way for your animal to die is for you to be loving, to be kind, to be there, making them feel safe, especially your dog, your cat too, they rely on you. So if you're loving and kind and letting them hear mantras and things, the mantras are leaving an imprint of enlightened energy, Buddhas, which means they'll connect with that again. And then your being loving will make them feel peaceful. And then the ideal one for the Buddhists, even if they're physically suffering, they'll still be, their mind won't be so anguished, because the physical pain is one thing, but mental anguish is another. So if the animal's living in fear as well as being suffering, that's terrible. But if you're making your animal feel safe and calm, it'll be feeling so much better. Its mind can then be peaceful. And then when it dies naturally, the virtuous karmic seed will be triggered and it'll get a decent next life. So the reason it's best for the Buddhist view not to kill your animal, to put it down like we think is normal, or your grandma for that matter, is because we don't know their mind. We don't have enough vision to see their mind and the karma they've created. So it's really best to be as loving and kind as possible so they die peacefully. Because once we give them a pill to kill them, we don't know. I mean, we think, they look peaceful, but we don't know that. We can't guarantee. So it's sort of a bit like playing Russian roulette with your animal, or with the dog, or the mouse, or your grandma. So, I think also in our culture, we're ourselves are very afraid of that suffering, and we think, good, if I stop the suffering, the pain will go away. But if we can make them feel peaceful and comfortable, that's a more precious gift. Then they'll die more peacefully, and then if they die peacefully, that karmic seed can be a virtuous one, which will give them a good life. You can't guarantee it, but it's the best way to do it. It's difficult because we spend so much money on our animals, and and it's very fearful for us. That's the Buddhist approach. Do you understand? But there's more to it than that. So let me go into more detail now about it. Yes.
Please help me.
Uh-huh.
Try to understand.
Uh-huh.
You refer to attachment as reactivity.
As what?
As reactivity.
I didn't say that word ever once. I never use it. But you said I referred to it, and I didn't. You are. Okay, that's fine. But that's not what I'm saying it is. But never mind. Keep going.
What I'd like to understand.
Yeah.
I'd like to understand better how you refer to attachment.
Okay, good. I'll do that.
How does it work?
I understand. I will do that. I will do it again. But let me talk about this. There's two topics now. I want to now go in, as a result of this question and this question, I now want to go into more detail about how we create karma and what morality means. And then we'll go also into attachment after that. Definitely will.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Just referring to this subject,
Yes.
I want to ask just one more question.
Yes.
If you're yourself sick, because we're talking about
Yes,
animals or
that's
animals,
right.
If you're yourself sick and
Yeah.
you're suffering from a lot of pain, if
Yes.
you know that you may be dying very soon,
That's
what
right.
do you do about sedation?
Sedation. Okay. Yes. I understand. I'll answer that question first, and then we'll go into. Good. It's a good point. Okay, let me go into that first. Then I'll discuss the morality and how we create karma and what the conditions are that determine whether what we do is negative and positive, which is also your point back there, sweetheart. I forget your name. Thank you, Sarah. That's right, Sarah. Her point. And then we'll go into your point. Okay, so this is a really important point. I think one of our common things in our culture is if you're drugged out of your brain, she's peaceful. You understand? You look peaceful. Now, that, in Buddhist view, when you're on lots of drugs, you've sort of gone into a bit of it's almost like you've almost gone beyond the grosser level of your consciousness, and you've gone a bit almost to a dream state. Wouldn't you agree? It's a bit like you're having hallucinations and visions. It's like a dream. Well, that's your subtle consciousness. The meditators can control that completely. If you're in a coma, that's your subtle consciousness. Now, just because your body is drugged out and you can't conceptually put things together, and maybe you're not feeling so much pain because the drug will stop the pain, but it doesn't help your mind. You all know yourselves, you can be sleeping really peacefully, looking like you're peaceful, and you wake up and tell your wife you just had a nightmare. But you were sitting lying peacefully. You weren't shouting and yelling. You look peaceful, but your subtle mind was having a monstrous dream. So it's the same if you're sick or having a coma. You can be completely tortured mentally, but just because your body is drugged out. So it doesn't help the mind, and we don't think that way in our culture. So the crucial thing for the Buddhist one, because once this death process, and they describe it in the Vajrayana in terms of 8 stages, and it starts... It's different for different people, but in general, it starts a couple of hours, it could, before you stop breathing. It's the beginning of this deconstruction process of the various components of the person. So it's it's very technical, it's around about a little bit before you stop breathing, while you've still got your senses about you, you've still got your wits about you, you can still move your body. It's about that time when this very particular kind of process happens, this very powerful grasping. So they describe this in the 12 links of dependent arising. And this grasping is like attachment, and it happens every millisecond. So this grasping is extremely powerful at the time of death. It's like shocking. It comes as a shock because it's more powerful than any time of life. So what's grasping? This is answering your question, actually. Grasping is another word for attachment. And in the 12 links, they go through this process of how we create lifetime after, how we create them every second, okay? So the 8th and the 9th are called craving and grasping. They're just 2 words for attachment. And the energy of attachment, like I said before, is this primordial, first of all, dissatisfaction that then brings lots of craving for delicious things out there, that then manipulates to get them, expects them, think about them, predicts them in the future, possesses them. There's this energy, it's multifaceted energy attachment, and it's constantly going, and it's so pervasive and so normal. We just think it's a normal part of being a normal human being, and it is, but it's shocking to hear that it's neurotic. We just think it's normal. Do you understand? So it's only when it's extreme that we consider it a problem, but it's there all the time. So one of the functions of attachment, as we know, is always looking forward to something. We spend our day looking forward to things, you know. You get up in the morning, list a job, do this, do that, do this, do that. Now, there's a virtuous part of that, but much of it's driven by this neurotic craving that's never satisfied, always wanting something more. So we can think all day now, like if you're into food, you cook breakfast, and I'll have this, and I'll do that, and I'll have afternoon tea, and I'll do this, and I'll cook that one, I'll buy this one, there's that one. We never stop. And then in our life, in general, we can see, in our life, because we believe we're permanent, which means I'll last forever, I'll die when I'm 97, whatever, it's always way off in the future, then you naturally have all this attachment energy that keeps us all perky and bouncy throughout life. Now I do this, and then I'll have a holiday, then I'll go there, and I'll buy this, and I'll go there, and next week I'll do that, and next year I'll do that, and then I'll retire, and I'll go here. We're always looking forward to something, aren't we? Always projecting into the future. So now think about death. If you've never thought about it in your life, and it's now coming to you, and the horror is dawning on you that there's nothing to look forward to. This is the most horrific. In life, this is why we get depressed. What's depression? There's nothing to look forward to, isn't it? That's why we kill ourselves, because it's so unbearable. Do you understand? So when attachment's all perky and excited, we think life's great. All da-da-da, do this, do that, mummy's there, daddy's there, everything's in place. And then suddenly everything collapses. You go down to the depths of despair and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's when the attachment energy is collapsed. Well, death, this grasping is so profound that it's quite a shock. And what are you going to grasp at? What you've got, this body. So it's this horrified attachment to this, what you've got, and you don't want to let go of it. Attachment is instinctive to hold on to something, So if you've never worked on your mind, you've never thought about it, it's now dawning on you that it's happening. And many people have such fear, but they can't even state it. It's just this horror of knowing and especially, if you have faith in God, at least you can use this attachment to look forward to heaven. And that's tricky. It's like a kid who won't let go of this thing, but you give them that thing, they'll drop this. It's skillful. You trick yourself. So you can use, Lama Zopa says, you can use your attachment if you're a Christian. So when your mummy's dying and she loves God or loves whatever, Jewish God, whatever, whoever, use the words that suit her. Tell her God loves her. Tell her if you have heaven. None of you Jews tell me you've got heaven, but Christians have heaven, okay? Muslims have heaven. So you can tell her to look forward to heaven. Your friends are there. God loves you. So she can relax and let go of this life. It's skillful means, you know. So Buddhists, if you think about life, you think about reincarnation, you use your attachment. Be reasonable, be intelligent, to look forward to something useful, and so you can let go of this bag of bones and relax, you know. So that's skillful means. An animal can't do that, but by being kind and loving, making it secure, it can calm down. So in this process, when this grasping happens, that grasping is the main trigger that activates the karmic seed that will be the one that will determine your next life. So in general, if the mind is freaked out at that time, panicking, freaked out, the animal, the human, whatever, then that can only trigger a negative seed, which means you can only get a lower realm rebirth. If the mind is peaceful, and whatever you use to help it be peaceful, peaceful music, mantras, peaceful, and it so trusts you, that animal. It could be even a little mouse can be calmed down. It's feeling not threatened. That's the perfect way to die. But don't think because you give it a pill to kill it, it looks peaceful. Not necessarily true. So the idea with drugs then is not to have so many drugs that you're out of your brain. And then to remember that drugs are necessary to stop the physical pain, but the real anguish is the mental. So if you can help the person by making them secure, to feel mentally peaceful, the physical pain isn't that bad. And that's not meant to be, it's not necessarily always true if the physical pain is that bad. But I think at the time of death, often it's the mental anguish and we can't tell the difference. So it's a really fine balance to have. You with me? Does that answer your question?
It gives me some lead.
To think about. Yeah. Good. Okay. Okay. So attachment. Huh? Yes.
You talked before about dying peacefully.
Yeah.
What about people that die accidentally, like in
It's very difficult, darling. It's very difficult because you know yourself. You just had a fight with your husband. You're raging, angry, and you drop dead in your soup. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry, but some people die immediately. Some people just drop dead. We think, oh, I'd rather die like that because we don't want to know about it. That's the worst way to die. It's not saying everybody dies, everybody's got negative states of mind, but it can be. You just had a fight and then you die. That's not the best way to die. You know, you could be in your dreams having a horrible nightmare of anger and fear and die. That's not cool. So it's best to die slowly and get warning in advance. It sort of sounds funny, but really, you know, we think, oh, it's terrible, I've been told I've got cancer. I'm sorry to be rude here. I don't want to, hopefully you're 97 and not 40. We always like to die at the end of our life. But at least if you know, you can prepare. Absolutely. This is the common sense, you know. That's why the hospice movement is so amazing, helping people at the time of death. It's the most blissful gift you can give human beings. And this is what Lama Zopa says, taking the view, of course, of Buddhism, which is reincarnation. You see, okay, this is an interesting point. In the materialist view, death is the end. So I guess it's wonderful that people are helping. I remember even in Australia, I did such wonderful conferences with really good doctors and nurses who are even electing to work with the dying. It's so moving, you know. One doctor in Sydney who runs the children's hospital, the children's hospice, where babies and children die, which is so horrific for us. He was such a good man, you know, trying to open it all up, stop the fear. And even the morgue for the dead babies was decorated like a nursery, and the little children, brothers and sisters, would run in and out. Oh, come and meet my dead baby, my dead brother. Opening it all up. That's wonderful. But still, the materialist view, that's it. And now it's all about the people who are left. But the Buddhist one is all about the people who died. And one person even read this manuscript of this book of Lama Zopa's, which I'm telling you, you can get the PDF, download it, or get it from Shuki. It's like a handbook with all the practices at the back and all what to do when. You know, it's very helpful. So it's like, what did I say? I'm sorry, I forgot again. What? Oh yeah, Lama Zopa's book. Okay, somebody read the manuscript, a Buddhist, and said, oh, where's the chapter about grieving? I said, this is not about us, this is about the dead person. Because even half of Rinpoche's practices are after the person's dead, but for the dead person. Do you understand? So we don't, in the materialist view, you don't have that view. And in the Christian and the Jewish, maybe there's something you do for the dead. But the Buddhist one, and Rinpoche's got all these endless things you can do. No matter, so, you know, if you negative karma ripen at the time of death, there's still something you can help. If they're in the bardo, they're going to go to the lower realms, you can still help. If they're in the lower realms, you can still help. He's super optimistic, you know. All these practices, do this, do that, make this, do that, fix that. I mean, there are all these tricky things you can do to help the person who's died get another decent human rebirth. Bottom line, you know. That's the Buddha's view. It's up to us. Pardon? Well, yeah, but it's not the point. You're worse than her. You say irrelevant things. Shut up. God, he's unbelievable. Just shut up, Shooky.
But he's helping Dexter.
What?
He's helping Dexter.
Oh, good, okay. He's helping Dexter. Good, he is. That's true. Yes, sweetheart. Both of you, go on. He's only got me living for a week. I think a week he'd be relieved to give me over to Karen and Shahar, you know. Go on. Is it? What is? Or is adding something? Now, I just thought it was called ego. Come on, talk. What, sweetie? Yeah. Yeah.
It is known that you should give them to drink even with a pepita so that they won't starve even when they are going to die out of thirst.
Okay, good. Very good. Thank you very much. I'll tell Lamas over to put it in his book. Go on.
Another question about if someone has a cancer and they put him on machines like intubations and things
To
like
keep
that.
them alive.
Yeah.
Oh.
Keep them alive. What is the Buddhist?
It's unfortunate. It's tricky because you can see it in our materialist view that says that when you die, you're gone. Then the natural instinctive wish is to heal and to keep alive. So because we're so clever technologically now, we've created these dilemmas for ourselves. We can keep a person alive for 100 years. So that means we've got to be forced now to make a decision to stop all spending those hundreds of millions of dollars and cut the machines off, which technically is killing. So it's unfortunate we've created these dilemmas. So the Buddhist approach is you just have to be reasonable. Now that we have all these abilities to keep people alive, you just have to be reasonable. So a Buddhist approach, I would suggest, well, I'll give an example. That's why living wills are really good. People say living will, you write your wishes in advance. Well, there's a friend of mine whose father and mother, all Buddhists, 3 of them were Buddhists, Tibetan Buddhists, and the father had a really bad heart, Paul, and he said to his daughter and his wife, please, if I have a heart attack, do not call the ambulance. Well, the poor wife panicked and called the ambulance. That's what we do, isn't it? And that's why when I did this book, Rinpoche said, this is education we all need, and I really mean that. Because we panic when people die. We don't know what to do. We say we don't know what to do. So this book of Rinpoche's, the way it's laid out, like a handbook, what to do when. You know, you don't have to, Rinpoche, the back of it's like 87 different practices. We do one of them. He's allowed to have 87. It's his book, you know. But it's the main part of it is what you do weeks and months before, what to do. It's trying to point out the main points, you know, to keep the person virtuous and content and peaceful so that when death does come, a virtuous seed can be triggered, because this is the point for the Buddhist one, because this life is over. Finished, gone. You want another decent human rebirth, and everything is to be done to help that happen. That's the point. Do you understand the point? If you've got that view, which takes us time to have that view, if we have it. So, okay. So therefore the dilemma is, of course, you want the person to stay alive. You keep them alive. You keep them alive. But the Buddhist would be, so, okay, with Paul, he had a heart attack, and she panicked. He vomited and she panicked and called the ambulance. So they rush him off to the hospital. Now, he had said really clearly, don't keep me alive. He's not being suicidal. He just says, I don't want to be kept artificially. But they did. So my daughter, the daughter and I went to the hospital, Santa Cruz, and then you could see he didn't want whatever the things are. He didn't want. You could tell he was distressed. So then we had to make the decision to pull him out. So we sat there. We did the various prayers he wanted, the King of Prayers. We could tell he knew we were there. He was happy to hear these things. And then we said, please pull the things. So technically that's killing, isn't it, in a sense? But it's if you do that with, you know, given this scenario we've created in our culture, then it's reasonable to do that, but you don't just do it any old time. We did all the prayers. He knew it was happening, because I think we can be conscious at very subtle levels. Do you understand? So that point's interesting. I remember, that's why people often say, okay, I remember a friend of mine in Sydney who was in the ER because she went into a deep coma. And they said she wouldn't come out. They said she was dying. So they had to wire up all the business and everything. And then the hospital, it was her husband. I rang him and I said, he said, can I go and see her? So I'd go every night. It was best at night because you can drive fast at night because it was like 50 kilometres away. So I'd go every night from the centre in Brisbane, in Sydney. And then I went to the ER and the husband told them that I was a Buddhist nun. So when I got there, they said, oh, don't ring any bells, please. So I promised I wouldn't. So anyway, I just sit by her bed. She had all the things in, in a deep coma. which of course in the West we think she's not conscious, and she isn't, but her subtle mind is there. So I just say prayers, the things she wanted. And every now and again, because she was very close to His Holiness Sakya Trinzen, he knew his family, he stayed in her house, and she was very close to Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, both of whom are both of my lamas. So I got messages to them to do prayers for her. So every now and again I'd whisper loudly, Judy, Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche is praying for you. Judy, His Holiness Sakya Trinzen is praying for you. Every now and again. So the thing is, she came out of a coma, all perky and bright, and she said the only thing she remembered was this husky voice saying, Judy, Tsongsa Khyentse Rinpoche is praying for you, like that, you know. She said she thought it was some blue lady coming through the window. But that was the only thing she found in her mind. So I just think, you know, whether you want to call it God or Buddhas or you name it, it's something powerful there. So even if you are in a deep coma, that's why the Buddhist one, you don't all blah blah about the will and shout and yell over mummy's body because she's in a coma. She can hear every damn word, you know, it'll have an effect. You do prayers, and as Rinpoche says, when they've passed away, only quiet, except for the prayers and mantras, because that can help so deeply, you know. And even when they're in a coma, you treat with incredible respect and have all the right sounds and things, and the animal as well. You keep your animal for at least 3 days, having prayers and stuff done. The mind can be there for 3 days, especially if it dies peacefully, you know, and that can help shift so many things. That's what they say. Does that make sense, people? Oh, absolutely. Don't touch for 3 days. Best. I know for Jews you've got to bury it straight away. Huh? That's what I'm saying. Absolutely, 3 days at least. Hang on, you people, wait. Unless you can be confident that the mind has already gone, and there's a very easy way to check. So in the death process, like I said, it's described in terms of 8 stages. Excuse me. I've got to do a blow again. I'm sorry. It's just a minute. Sorry. Okay. The death process is described in terms of 8 stages, okay? So the 4th stage is when all the grosser level has ceased. Your eyes, your ears, the capacity to hold a lot of information in your mind, the tact, all your senses have ceased, and you stop breathing. Now that's when we think we're dead, but we're not dead yet. It's like that's the equivalent of going to sleep, except it's more dramatic now. It's the same process, psychologically and physiologically. So then, at this point, the subtle consciousness is now still there. So, like I said before, like we know with dreams, you can still be aware. I mentioned, I think, I did a retreat. Did I mention? Years ago, when I first became a nun, I did a Vajrasattva retreat, and even though I'm not a good meditator, still, you meditate for 3 months, something's got to happen. So your mind gets a bit subtle. So I had these crystal clear dreams during this period when we had our lunchtime nap. Crystal clear dreams, lucid dreams, but I was absolutely conscious of all the sounds around and what people were doing in the kitchen. That's really not uncommon. So that can happen when a person's in a coma. Do you understand? And that can be when a person's even looking like they're dead. If their subtle mind is still there, that's the equivalent of the coma mind and the dream mind. They can still be conscious of what's happening in the room, especially that. So it's so important to keep it peaceful and beautiful and only prayers and like a shrine room, really important. But the way to check that this process happens, and so there's a way to check whether the mind is still there. If the rest of the body is cold, you just touch lightly. You shouldn't touch much, but just touch. But here, you put your hand here. The way they talk in this process, everything gathers to this spot here. This is called the heart chakra. There's these various points in the central channel. They've got these 72,000 subtle channels they say the body is made up of. And this is the same as the Hindu one, the yogis back then, 72,000 subtle channels. There's a central one that starts back up here and goes all the way down to the penis for the male, and there's cervix for the female. Then there's 2 side ones that start here and go down. There's all these millions of others. They're all kind of mucky and mixed together, So there's various points called chakras here, 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 below the navel, and 3 down below, outside for the boys and inside for the girls. So the way how we start in our mother's womb, the mummy and daddy come together, and that's the old-fashioned way, isn't it? Now we have petri dishes and God knows what, The egg and sperm come together, and there's a subtle physical energy, this model says, called the subtle kundalini, this white and red kundalini, the essence of the male and the female. This subtle physical energy they talk about is in this egg and sperm. And so what happens is when these join, that's the condition that in our case, let's say we die, the karma was triggered before we stopped breathing weeks ago to go to our mummy's womb. They hop into bed, the condition comes, our consciousness, which has left the body, I'll discuss this in a minute, left the body, floating around in this intermediate state, which is like a dream state. And then when mummy and daddy hopped into bed, we ran like a magnet, zap, and jumped into that egg and sperm. So our very subtle consciousness joined with that subtle red and white drop. And the beginning of us is at the heart chakra. Our little body began here at the heart chakra. And so then everything grows from there. So the death process is this deconstruction process all the way down to the heart chakra and all the way up from the feet. Everything deconstructs. All the energies come in more subtle, more subtle, more subtle until the 8th stage. That's the very subtle consciousness or the clear light consciousness. And that very subtle consciousness is at the heart chakra, at what they call the indestructible drop, which is the red and the white that come from mummy and daddy, the subtle level. And this is here at the heart chakra, like a tiny bean. And so when that opens and the very subtle consciousness leaves, that's death. And that can be up to 3 days after you stop breathing. So the easy way to check if the person's mind is still there when they look like they're dead, and this is the animal too, you put your hand just above the heart chakra and it will be vividly warm if the mind is still there. That's it. That's an easy way to check. So if you can see the mind is gone, there's no reason to have it there for 3 days. Traditionally, they do in the monasteries because you can do prayers and it's always helpful. But especially if you die in a hospital, you've got a half an hour if you're lucky. That's part of the problem. You've got to rush. And so one of the key things I found working on this book, we all if you're Buddhist, you sort of know about it, but because we panic when someone dies, we all say, I don't know what to do. So it's education. And you've got to keep your wits about you to know what to do when your grandma drops dead or vomits and has a heart attack. Keep your wits about you, not just the physical health, but know what to do that's best for their mind. It's really helpful, I tell you. Yes and yes. Go.
Can you say something about Alzheimer's?
Darling, Alzheimer's or senility or is all these like I said, the third category of states of mind. All these, I call them the mechanics of the mind. Are you with me here? Yeah. You've heard me say this before? So we've got 3 categories of states of mind. Negative, neurotic, deluded, ridiculous, drama queens in there, Do you understand? Then we have the positive ones. Clarity, kindness, intelligence, spaciousness, interdependence, all this. Then we have the mechanics, concentration, good memory, discrimination, attention, intention. There's just many parts of our mind. So when they start to go, that's broadly speaking what Alzheimer's and senility is. You lose your memory. You forget who you are. You can't recognize this. Recognition is going. There's one called discrimination, which is the ability to see everything exactly. That's mummy, that's daddy. That anyway starts to go at death, but we can see with some people starts to go now. You lose your memory. That's called mindfulness. You forget what you're doing. This is what these diseases are. Those parts of your mind are starting to cease. Oh, God Almighty, that's all you can do. There's nothing else you can do for them. They can't do anything themselves. And that often, because you've got senility, because you've got Alzheimer's, many people can be peaceful, but many are freaking out, panicking, because you never know what's going on. It's terrifying. And I remember one time in one hospital, old lady's home, old people's home, some old person's grandmother, not only Alzheimer's or whatever, but also angry and deluded and paranoid, kind of raging. And this poor old hospital, these wretched places, some of these places are so horrible. They have the television blasting all day and drug them out of their brains, I mean, it's hardly beneficial. It's very sad. So anyway, this old lady, we were with her, raving on. Then I thought, well, how do I help? I just start to sing a mantra. Instantaneous peace. Because sound is so powerful. Sound is even when your eyes are vague, sound is one of the most powerful senses. So just to have a peaceful, virtuous, beautiful sound, immediately the mind can be peaceful. Can you imagine the television blasting at a person and make you hallucinate, It's too horrible for words. So one of the most precious things you can give your animal, and not just when they die, when you leave work, you leave for work, you turn on your computer, and you just have mantras playing all day. The animals.
There's a new startup, by the way.
What's that?
Somebody that I know that they're doing now a whole thing about having music and stuff that are for the animals.
There you go.
When you leave home.
There you go.
So they will stay home.
There you go. This is the one for the Buddhist mantras and teachings, because it all goes into the imprints, and that's going to be creating the course to meet Buddha next life.
So
This is
it's something that is ongoing.
Perfect.
now.
There you go. But I mean, anyone can do that without a start. You just have to put the computer on, like you with Dexter. You know, we love our animals, but we leave them in their idiocy. Those, and I'm being horrible about our animals. They're living in this. What can they do in that 8 hours while we're out? Just turn the music on. Turn Lamas open. Your teacher, the Dalai Lama, hearing the teachings or a mantra doesn't matter. It's the best precious gift you can give. You know, best. Couldn't wish best for better. So who had other question?
Me.
Did I answer your question? I forget. I did. Okay. Yeah.
Actually, it's not a question, it's a thought that I would
Yeah.
like to
Good.
share.
Go on.
What you're saying is very, I found myself like almost crying because the people that sit here, they are, I would say, first generation Buddhist.
Yeah.
So when we'll die,
That's right.
there is nobody for us in our I mean, most of our families are
Not Buddhist. I know exactly.
not
understand.
Buddhist,
That's true.
or are
That's why we have to.
materialist.
That's why we have to
Yeah.
provide something.
How
Start
can
something.
somebody leave my body for 3 days?
I know exactly. I
They
understand.
will go to maybe to you know to
No, I understand.
sedation after that.
I understand,
Maybe
yeah.
send for a mental.
No, I understand, darling. That's. I mean, I know it's the
So I'm
same.
saying it's
Well, I
not a
mean, it's
question,
just.
just a thought.
No, exactly. It's a good point, and that's why I know. Like Australia, Buddhism's been there maybe only 40 years. You know, I mean now, but people are starting hospice services. It's growing, and I want to say this about you people in this country. It's interesting. You know, the number of Tibetan Buddhists that are coming in Israel is very fascinating. So you have to remember, from the Buddhist point of view, every single one of you prayed in past lives to be born in a place where you can be useful. Don't think your mother made you. You got here on purpose. You got born here from your own past wishes. That's pretty amazing. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the Buddhist view. You made prayers and aspirations to be born where you could be most useful. So you got born as a Jew. All right? You could have been a Tibetan last life. Don't get too caught up being Jewish, okay? I know you love your Israel and everything. You understand? It's very interesting, this one. I mean, probably Tibetans last life. It could have been a dog. Who knows, you know? So that, I think, is very admirable. Because I think you're changing, any growth of spiritual practice anywhere is changing the face of a piece of land, isn't it? It's very amazing. Yeah.
Once the mind leaves the body and
Yeah.
you know that it's gone,
Yeah.
is there a value to the discarded body?
No. Okay, yes, I'll tell you. One of the many practices Rinpoche recommends is this practice where you, once you've if they're going to bury them, keep a bit of the hair or the body, just a little bit, or when you burn, keep a bit of the ashes. And then there's a very special practice. Pardon? I'm about to tell you. God Almighty, what do you think? I mean, you can't even wait for me to give the answer. It's just amazing. That's it. You're so eager, you want to know. I'm so impressed. That's so sweet. I like that. That's amazing. I'm in the middle of a sentence. I can't speak faster, okay? That's wonderful. The reason is, there's this amazing... Okay, these are all these Buddhist practices. There's a practice called Jangwa, which is really complex, and you've got to get some proper yogis or lamas to do it. It brings the energy of the Buddha's energy into the ashes and into the body. So Lama Zopa says, you go to the cemetery, and he said there's no value in that. It's just your mind, and it's just a bunch of bones there. But if you've blessed it, then the next thing you can do with those ashes, or with a bit of hair, or the body of the being, been blessed and sort of invoking, is kind of now kind of blessed with the energy of the Buddhas, they say, then you can make little tsatsas. You know tsatsa images? Those little Buddhas. Mix it with the clay or the plaster, and then you have this cute little Buddha statue on your mantelpiece instead of a little instead of a bunch of ashes. It makes you feel nervous, So precious, so beneficial. Let me say, waxes lyrical about the benefit of this practice for the dying person. So in this book of Rinpoche's, just download it. If you want to write, I'll tell you now the link. You just download. So you Google, download PDF. Pardon? Just go to Google and you write, download PDF, how to help your loved ones enjoy death. That's just the first half of the title. That's enough. Download PDF, how to help your loved ones enjoy death. And this book will come. And it's extremely helpful. Okay? Huh? What? Yes, sure. Okay, let me just make sure I haven't answered all the questions yet, have I? We've got to get to attachment more. We've got to get to that, and I've got to get to morality as well. So what's your other question, Charlotte? Yes.
We are going to have a ceremony next year.
Who is we?
A group of Buddhists coming from the US and in Israel, of burying tsatsas.
Which group? Out of interest, which group?
a MAPA group.
Nyingmapa group. Wonderful.
Sits in California.
Okay.
We're going to have a peace tsatsa burial
Wonderful.
in
Tsatsa burying.
burying tsatsas in the ground.
How will that help?
So
What good is that?
just
No, I'm interested. Whose instruction is this?
it's an instructions from a
One Lama.
Rinpoche,
Oh, wonderful.
Rinpoche that sits in
Wonderful.
Northern California.
Good. Wonderful.
To heal the ground.
Wonderful. Very nice.
Because this ground is so
Full with blood.
full of anguish and blood.
Okay. Good.
It's going to create a mandala.
Good. Very nice. I'm very impressed. That's
You think
beautiful.
4 tsatsas will be enough for this country? You
That's wonderful. It's great. I think it's fantastic. Good. Good. Okay.
How big the tsatsa is and how big the prayer.
I love it. It's wonderful. Yes, darling.
There's already a peace process that they buried
What, darling?
with something all over the world.
Who? Kirti Senchab Rinpoche at some point did something. Many lamas are doing this. He went to the Arctic or the Antarctic, which is the source of much of the water, and he did all these blessings and special things on the water for the planet, you know.
But
Anyway.
isn't it dangerous to get involved so much in these doings and forgetting the real reason for us to follow and to study Buddhism?
Well, if you only get obsessive with one thing, yeah, you got a problem. Don't get obsessive. Do many things, isn't it? So now let's talk about morality. What time is it? I didn't bring my watch. What time is it, darling? Sweetheart, what time is it? Okay, good. Let's go into a bit more detail now about how we create karma. And crucially, what it is when we do an action, and this is getting to Sarah's point about how we are already creating negative karma, even if we just have attachment, you know. Forget about harming others. But let's look at the more heavy actions we do, which are actions that use our body and speech to harm others, based on attachment and so forth and so forth. Okay, so, or a virtuous action for the same. The logic is the same. Okay. So there's an action that's called a complete action. And a complete action is one that will leave a seed in your main bank vault that will be the one that will determine a future type of rebirth. So in our case, that we got this human birth, it's the fruit of a complete action, generally of morality, but specifically, especially of the morality of non-harming, even more specifically, the intentional action of non-killing. Because conscious intentional non-killing is one of the major virtuous actions, because indeed intentional killing is one of the heaviest negative actions. I think intuitively we kind of know that, you know. So, okay, this is again a crucial thing. When I was a Catholic, God is the boss. What is a sin? I asked my priest friend. Like I said to you before, by definition, what makes your action a sin isn't the fact that he said there's some aspect of natural law. They all agree that people don't like getting killed. There's some aspect of that, but the real aspect that makes it a sin, makes it a negative action for you when you do it, is because God said not to. This is, please, a really major point. This is so instinctive for us because that's what we think of morality. We're naughty because the police said to do something and we did it. We're naughty because Mummy said not to do it. We're naughty because God said not to do it. That's the Buddha would say, the dualistic view that then brings, if we're neurotic about it, that brings guilt and blame and all the drama. So the Buddha's view, as I said to you before, he only has natural law. There's no equivalent in Buddhism of God's law. God's law implies that view. So what makes an action negative for the Buddha isn't anything to do with the fact that he suggests you don't kill. Jesus says don't kill. God says don't kill. Allah says don't kill. Your grandma says don't kill. Your mother says it. So what makes it wrong isn't the fact that someone said it. This is a powerful point. It's the fact that it hurts others. So the definition of a heavy negative action for the Buddha is one that harms another. By definition. It's only natural law. And that's not too hard to prove. Do market research in this room. Do you like getting killed, raped, stolen from? No, thank you. Pretty evident. Check monkeys and ants, they're the same, you know. So in general, a heavy negative action, a heavier one, is one that involves another. You harm one. It's really not rocket science, and it's a natural law. So, but what's fascinating here at the very first level of Buddhist practice, entry-level junior school, Buddha, like your grandmother, like Jesus, like God, exhorts us not to kill, not to steal, not to jump on the wrong partner. And then there's 4 of the speech: lying, bad-mouthing behind backs, rabbiting on about nothing, and harsh speech. 7 little baby actions. His 7 little abysses of advice that he would suggest, at least, honey, stop doing these. So we've got to ask the question, why? It's necessary to ask, what's your logic, Buddha? Why shouldn't I do these actions? Not because he said so. So it's just like the doctor. She says, Robina, I suggest you don't smoke. The first question is you should say, why not? And then she shall give you a rational answer, which is, well, honey, you know what? It'll have consequences and it might cause you to get cancer. We get that. It's intelligence. We're grateful for the doctor. We're not thinking she's punishing us. We're not thinking cancer is the punishment. This is a really important point to get. But as soon as we hear, don't kill, you might go to the lower realms, we think it's Buddha punishing us and sending us, because that's the view we have already. Are we communicating here? Yeah. Okay, so Buddha's view of what a negative action is, a heavy negative one, in general, is an action that harms another. But here, it's more specific, it's more fundamental. And this is the basis of abiding by the laws of karma. Because the wisdom wing is for your own sake. And this is junior school, part of the wisdom wing. He says, you know what, Robina? Just like the doctor, when she says, don't smoke, you might get cancer, he says, honey, don't kill, because that's going to leave impressions in your mind. You'll program your mind, which will result in you being born in the lower realms. 1. 2, continuing to kill. 3, getting killed. 4, lousy environment. Every action has any or all of those 4 results, virtuous as well, because that's the fundamentals of this natural law of karma. Any action we do can have any or all of those results, naturally. No one's up there running the show. No one's judging. No one's pulling the strings. It's natural, like cancer. That's the reason to start. So as Lama Zopa says, the most urgent first step in Buddhist practice, the first thing to do, at least intentionally refrain from harming sentient beings. And these are just 7 little ways to not do. You can be more intricate and you can say, well, don't punch. Buddha doesn't say don't punch. We can deduce it. We're not stupid. He mentions the 7 major ones. You get my point here? And then even more subtle, Sarah's point, that we can then gradually deduce that if every action I do that harms others is based on a delusion, then every action I do that is based on a delusion that only harms me is also one I should refrain from doing. Eating too much food. No, food doesn't mind if I eat it. I'm not harming anybody, but it's driven by attachment. So the key to understanding these actions is they're driven by attachment, driven by delusions. But here, the first step is not to work on the delusion. That's high school. That's too advanced. You first control the servants of your delusions, which is your body and speech. You with me? It's reasonable. So let's look at an action then. So, okay, Buddha, please give me your logic. Why should I not kill? And what are the components of an action that will make it negative, that will make it so a negative seed in my mind when I do it, that unless I pull it out will bring those future results? So, okay, let's look. We do the same for a positive action. There's no difference. Use our example of non-killing. So I mentioned this before already. So karma is very dynamic, and karma starts with the mind. Karma is not some big stick. Karma is not an equivalent of God. Karma is a name given, like botany is the law that runs gardens, or karma is the law that runs sentient beings. That's all. So, you only create karma when your mind starts with an intention. Without intention, there can't be karma created. And I'll give you an example. Okay, we'll just keep the simple example of non-killing, because there's a starting point of practice is the non. Don't this, don't that. So let's use the example of not killing and use the example of a mouse. So I have various scenarios, you know. What's your name again? Shalom. What's your name? Shlomo. Sorry, not Shalom. Shlomo, okay. Shlomo has a mouse in his kitchen, you know. Shuki has a mouse in his kitchen. Sarah has a mouse in her kitchen. Let's say 3 scenarios. You'll see the point. So, and I have a mouse in my kitchen. So the typical example of a negative action of killing a mouse is as follows. 1, there's 4 components in place. in order to be a complete action, which is a seed in my bank vault that when it ripens will give me a lower realm rebirth, and then many after that. So first there has to be the object, and that's called a living creature. You can't kill a dead mouse, you know. It's got to be a living mouse. The object. The object is the first of the four. The second is my mind involved in it, and this is the central component. And there's three parts there. 2A is there has to be discrimination. This part of the mind in the neutral category that is the ability to distinguish, that is the mouse. It's very specific. So discrimination, 2A, I can see clearly, discriminate, that's the mouse. 2B, intention, I will kill that mouse. That's karma. Intention is the word that means karma. It's mental action. 3, we would say, what's the reason you're going to kill a mouse, Robina? They'd call it motivation. Well, guess what? Typical. Anger, aversion, disgust. How dare a mouse be in my kitchen? Which, of course, comes down to attachment, because I'm attached to a mouse-free kitchen. So there's three parts to my mind involved. The object, 1 is the object. 2A, discrimination, that is the mouse. 2B, intention, I will kill that mouse. 2C, motivation, aversion, disgust, whatever. 3, I do the action. 4, dead mouse. And there's other components like rejoicing in it, blah, blah, you know. But essentially they're the four main components. And a virtuous action is exactly the same. Exactly the same, except the action is intend, I will save that mouse, and the motivation is compassion. Do you understand? And then 3, you pick up the mouse, and 4, happy mouse. Thank you, Robina, bye, out the door, you know. That's a complete action of non-killing. Now the point is this. Let's say, you know, Shlomo doesn't, let's say for Shlomo, okay, let's look at the 4 points. 1, an object there, a mouse. 2, discrimination. That is the mouse. No, it's not there. He doesn't see it. 2B, intention, I will kill that mouse. No intention. He doesn't see it. 2C, motivation. No motivation. He doesn't see it. 3, his foot stands on the mouse. 4, dead mouse. 0 negative karma. Of course. How can there be karma if your mind is not involved? But we are very vindictive. There's got to be some bad karma there. He's got to get some punishment. That's us getting away with it. No way, you know. But it's technically true. Okay, he might be drunk at the same time trying to kill me. That's different. He's got the karma of being drunk and trying to kill me. But there's no karma of killing a mouse. There can't be. So it's just simple. Everything's more nuanced than this, but this is really important to understand. And it's exactly the same. Let's say Shuki has a mouse, and he's an ordinary materialist person. And 1, there's the object, mouse. 2, recognition. That's the mouse I will kill. 3, intention. I will kill that mouse. Sorry, 2A, 2B, 2C, motivation, compassion, because he sees the mouse as suffering. And this is a typical view. He wants to kill his mouse, you know. He wants to, what do you call it? Euthanasia, polite word for killing, you know. Isn't it? Put them to sleep, as we say. He wants to kill the mouse. But so motivation is compassion, and it's sincere. It's mixed with attachment, but he really can see the suffering. He can't bear the suffering. He wants to stop the poor mouse's suffering. Do you understand? That's genuine. 3, he kills it. 4, dead mouse. He creates virtuous karma. Maybe not much because he's dumb. Because his motivation, he meant well. But as the Lama Zopa says, sorry, meaning well's not enough. You know, I've got a headache. Shuki's got such compassion, and he's got a couple of pills, but he forgets which the cyanide was. I don't want him to play Russian roulette with my headache. Leave me alone. Mind your own business. Do you understand? And I'm dying in agony. Oh, I meant well, Robina. Well, thanks a lot, Shuki. Excuse me. You understand? We're so emotional, you know. So then it's not bad for him. So it's cool for him, you could argue. Although it's not good to keep doing this, because in the end there's no wisdom. He had no wisdom to discriminate the decent pill, and he hasn't got the wisdom here, which is obviously heavier wisdom, which is the wisdom of clairvoyance that can see what's best for the mouse. That's the difficult part, you know. But nevertheless, he meant well. So the motivation, once the intention is there, the motivation is what gives it the character. But usually for us, intention and motivation like come together. We don't even notice, you know. It could be the same for a positive action. Like in his case, no karma. Let's say I'm walking down the road, Shuki's a homeless person. He's got his hand out for money. And I walk by, I don't have a wish to give him, 20 shekels falls out, and he gets his 20 shekels. He's happy. But I create zero generosity because I didn't intend to do it. Get my point? It's really clear. So there's always two things. There's the karma of the animal, what is going to happen to him, her, but then there's the karma we create, and they're not necessarily related. Yes.
I have a scenario. If we kill a sentient being who we know is going to harm another sentient being,
Okay, I understand.
is that my karma, good or bad?
Darling, like I just said here, in relation to his action of killing with a pure motivation, his action of no motivation, so no karma, and my action motivated by anger and delusion, the key factor that has to be there that determines the quality of the karma you create is first the intention, but then the motivation that impels you to do it. So I have to ask you, what's the motivation for killing that person for you? Let's just give an example.
Even a person, let's say it's a bee.
Whatever it is, let's say you kill the bee. What is the motivation for killing the bee? Be very precise now. This is the key to the answer.
To save another sentient
Okay, that's the reason everybody has wars. That's the reason you guys want to go kill the Palestinians. That's the reason they want to kill you. That's the reason Hitler killed those people. That's the reason that everybody kills somebody because you're hurting my people. That's better than nothing, but it's hardly virtue, darling. It's called anger for the bee. I'm sorry. I mean, it's not so comfortable. It's not so comfortable. But the crucial point about him killing the mouse, it's compassion for the mouse. So if you're going to kill Hitler, kill him with compassion for him. If you're going to kill the bee and it's going to harm a little baby and kill the baby, and you can't do anything else, then out of huge compassion for the bee who's going to kill somebody, you kill the bee with compassion. That's a profound action. Can you hear me?
Will that add to the karma of the bee?
Can you? No, you have to do with their karma, darling. That's not the point. You can't help another person's karma, but you can stop it from killing, and that's good for it.
No, that's what I mean.
Well, of course, it not add to. It's not a question of add. You prevented the bee from killing. That's profound. But who has that kind of mind instinctively? Because the first thing you want to do is save our baby. Kill the bloody bee. But, you've got to have wits about you. That technically would be a virtuous action. Of course it would. But out of, and there's no other option. Let's say, Of course that would be perfect. But we tend to think self-defense is a good reason. But that's in the end, it just brings anger and panic, and there's just more wars and more dramas and more this and more that. Never ends. It never ends. So individually, the karma we create is determined by the motivation. It comes right down to motivation. And that's why we have to know our minds. So this point about killing the mouse with compassion doesn't mean you run around the world killing each other with compassion. It's not suggesting you should do that. Please do not do it. Mind your own damn business. But it's just showing the point of this component of attention, I will kill, but even the motivation is virtuous. It can shift the karma for the person. But best not to have it at all. You understand, people? Yes, Sarah. Yes,
Yeah, so you're talking about killing, which is a very clear example, relatively, but I'm talking about other actions that are not...
Like what?
That you don't
Harming
know if you
others.
harm somebody else,
That's
you
right.
harm somebody
That's right.
else de facto.
So give an example.
Well,
of an action.
You thought about this, you've both thought about something and you said something and it hurt somebody else.
Oh, okay, listen. This is our lives. Life is a minefield. We're harming each other all the time. That doesn't mean we intended to, and it doesn't mean we create any negative karma, because we're also sensitive and demented, so we get hurt easily by each other, don't we? So you could argue, as you get more wise and more compassionate, you won't harm others, but that's just not true. Millions of Chinese communists just can't even bear the sight of the Dalai Lama. They get raging angry. We know we can't blame the Dalai Lama for that. You understand my point? So we know that some people can't stand us, or they're so unhappy no matter what you do. You can walk down the street and people can't stand ladies with curly hair. You'll make them have a heart attack. You didn't do anything wrong. So that's why we've got to be wise and skillful. But we have to see karma's created by intention and then motivation. Do you see? We've got to have wisdom. We've got to develop more subtlety and more awareness of each other. Of course we do. But we can't guarantee that what we do won't upset others. And that's where, I put it this way, in the tyranny of families, our mummies and daddies and our aunties and uncles have it over us. They manipulate us with guilt. I mean, we can do that to each other in relationships, you know, really make each other so guilty, neurotic. Oh, I love you, it's for your sake, and we know damn well it's your mother's attachment. And then we're terrified and don't want to upset mummy, and we'll do anything to not upset mummy. But no matter what we do, she'll still get upset, and we all go crazy. So we have to take some responsibility at some point and realise we can't make the world a happy place. We have to make some decision to have real wisdom to do the thing that we really feel is best, even if mummy is despairing. We can't help it. Do you understand? And that's scary because we don't want to upset people. We think we don't want to upset them, but really we don't want them to not like us. But that's another discussion. Are we communicating? So, let me think now. What are we up to?
The word attachment.
That's right. Lunchtime almost, isn't it? Oh, you said that half an hour ago. You did. He said 12:30 half an hour ago because I thought I've got 30 minutes before lunch and it's still 12:30. Well, I heard 12:30. Well, you should take responsibility and say you're very sorry, Robina. You happily blame me. Look at you. You happily blame me. You're outrageous. You're wicked. He was delighted that I was wrong, you know. Yes. Huh? Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So the question is? What's the question? You have to. Don't ask me. You look into your own mind. You'll find the answer. And I'm serious there. It can be either of those, couldn't it? You have to look at it yourself. You have to see. You have to see. You know. So, okay, let's look more here. A little bit more about this business of karma. So one is the karma we create. But this is an interesting point. Let's say I'm angry, I hate mice, and I kill it. I create heavy negative karma. And then he, out of compassion, kills his mouse. But let's just look at the scenarios for the mice. There's no guarantee because he meant well that it's good for the mouse. And there's no guarantee that I hated the mouse, that the mouse there wasn't some good result. So let's say, you know, I'm living next door to Shuki, who's a Buddhist, and he's got his mantras playing, and my mouse, just when I kill it with fury, is listening to Buddha's mantras, and that triggers a virtuous seed, and he gets a decent human rebirth and meets the Dalai Lama. Well, that's a very lucky mouse. Do you understand? So I create heavy karma, but due to the conditions for the mouse, it's good for the mouse. Your mouse, his mouse that he wants to help so much, might freak out and have the worst death possible and go to the hell realms. So what we do meaning well is not enough. That's all. We've got to have wisdom. This is a big deal in Buddhism. Dalai Lama always says compassion's not enough. Lama Zopa says meaning well is not enough. And so wisdom, don't think it's fancy. The ultimate wisdom is realizing emptiness, of course, and the wisdom of clairvoyance. But really wisdom in general is what you get the more you don't follow attachment, don't follow jealousy, don't follow depression, don't follow fear. That's wisdom. Ignorance is when it's driven by delusions, you know. So slowly we get wisdom. So attachment, we've already talked about it massively. I described it in detail yesterday. You don't remember? You didn't kind of get it. It's a difficult topic. It's the main voice of ego grasping. And effectively, in the Four Noble Truths, it's the main cause of suffering day to day. It's the motor that propels all our decisions. And it's very related to having a body of the senses. That's the tragedy. It's like, as I said, you know, okay, there's three levels of, okay, let's put them into the three kinds of suffering. Let's look at the Four Noble Truths. Well, first of all, truth sounds like religion to me, so I prefer the word facts. 4 facts. And the truths aren't noble. It's actually the 4 facts for the noble ones, which is those who've realized it. So let's call them the 4 facts for the noble ones. And they're all about suffering. So the first one is, you know what, guys? There is suffering. 2, there are causes. 3, guess what? You can get rid of it. That's his brilliance. 4th, how to do it. Of course, the way it's presented is so arcane and so abstract and so complex that we can't hear it that simply, you know. There is a problem, there are causes, you can get free of it, and how to do it. It's kind of encouraging. Now let's look what he means by suffering, because this now gets depressing. Okay. First kind of suffering, there's three, is the obvious kind. He even calls it the suffering of suffering. This is very simple. It's when the bad things happen. And this is how we all agree on this planet. We can't stand the bad things. So we will do everything in our power to avoid the bad things. And that means have the good things happen. Speaking really simply. So suffering of suffering is when the bad things happen. Anything from hurting your knee to Shuki leaving you to being tortured. I mean, suffering is horrible in this universe. Sentient beings do terrible things to each other. That's what's called suffering. The first kind, the obvious kind. You understand? In general. Now, that's the one we know we don't like. And that's the only one we call suffering. So when we see poor people, we think that's suffering. You see a gorgeous, handsome person in a house with a divine girlfriend, wife, babies, this and that, we don't think they're suffering. Buddha's got a more nuanced, subtle view of suffering. The second one. And he calls it very simply the suffering of change. The third is called all-pervasive suffering. Now, we've implied all of these all the way, but let's point them out. So if we look at the second of these facts, the causes. So Buddha's very clear. There are two main causes for happiness or suffering, for that matter. And then neither of them, the main ones, is in the other person. So if I'm upset and Shuki is cheating on me, as far as I'm concerned, there is one cause, and it's called Shuki. We know that. And if I'm happy, there's one cause, it's called Shuki. So because of this, it's like we blame Shuki for our suffering, and we also blame him for our happiness. Why are you so happy, Robina? Well, it's Shuki's fault. He's so kind to me. You understand my point? We literally put the responsibility on the outside. That's samsaric philosophy. Buddha disagrees. He says, fine, Shuki definitely plays a role. He did cheat on you. I agree, Robina. But he's not the main cause of your suffering. Sorry, babe. And this is too shocking to hear, but it's very blunt. There are two main causes, Robina, and both of them are in you. And he says, if you can locate these, because these are the main causes, if you work on them, you can stop suffering. I can chuck Shuki out, I can get 4 billion boyfriends and throw them all out, but as long as the karmic causes are there, which we're going to go into, you'll never stop the suffering. But working on your mind, and that means the two main causes, okay, the two main causes of suffering, past action, speaking simplistically, when I cheated on him 2.5 lives ago, speaking simplistically, past karma, action, motivated by number 2 cause, a delusion. A neurosis, attachment, for example. They are the two main causes of my present suffering. So not only, you could say, without looking at karma, you can definitely say, right now, Buddha's answer would be, I'd say, someone says, why are you suffering, Robina? Shuki cheated on me. And none of us would disagree, and we would all accept that's the main cause of my suffering. You ask Buddha, why am I suffering, Buddha? He says, Robina, darling, it's because you're jealous. That's the reason, he says. So without karma, that's fine. You can already do so much work on this. You can still work on this incredibly without ever thinking about karma. When you really realize this crucial one, there's an object called Shuki who cheated. Fact, that's immorality. We can all agree that's not moral action. We can agree it's not cool when you've had a relationship, you've agreed not to cheat, and he breaks his relationship. That we can accept as an immoral action. No problem. But then there is my part in it, which is my own jealousy. So, of course, our logic is, but of course I'm jealous. It's because he cheated. So we truly do believe philosophically that my jealousy comes from him. Literally, we believe I'm an innocent victim, and I haven't cheated on him before, so in ordinary terms, I am an innocent victim. So we literally believe that jealousy is the result of his action. Buddha says he's only a condition. So he's not arguing that he doesn't play a role. It's more nuanced than that. He is merely a catalyst. That's the best way to put it. His action of cheating is only a catalyst. The main cause of my suffering is my jealousy. The main cause of my suffering is my jealousy, my anger. This is hard to hear, isn't it? Because we in our culture link my state of mind with the person. We can't help it, you know. And that's the deluded, how we can't hear karma properly. It seems almost like too mean, too cruel, too brutal, you know. This is exactly what Buddha's saying. Now we can prove it. We know it's true. Because we know some people don't get jealous. It's just a fact. Some people, you know, maybe are so relaxed, so easygoing, they don't get jealous. It's a fact. Some people don't have much anger. It's a fact. So what if I've got lots of anger, let's say. Anger is a very simple, better example than jealousy. If I've got a very big temper, let's say, and the tiniest thing, we all know this with people, makes me angry. So he could just, you know, not hear what I said perfectly. He might have heard one word wrong, and I'll blast at him. You're not listening to me. You don't love me. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. We know some people are like that. Forget yourself. And you even go, God, she's ridiculous. Come on, she's overstating things a bit. We know that's true. So it is logical in that case that he is not the cause of the suffering. It's logical the person's anger is the cause of the suffering. Like I said about Sarah, some people who are neurotic and can't stand ladies with curly hair because they're neurotic. She's got zero to do with it. She didn't do anything wrong. It's obvious the person's crazy mind is the cause of their suffering. It just gets more difficult when the other person does bad things, really bad things. Then it gets complicated. But still the same thing applies. And that's why I love using examples of my friends in prison. You know, like one woman I read about. I always quote this story lately. I didn't meet this woman, but I've read about her. And you can read about her. She's an amazing woman. 30 plus years ago, in the 70s, I think, she was arrested. She was a hippie. She wrote a memoir. She was a hippie in Florida, hitching with a hippie husband and hippie kids in Florida. They get picked up by two blokes. The two blokes get picked up by the cops. The blokes kill the cops and blame the hippies. So they're put on death row. The husband's even executed. Try and think of the suffering, okay? Just try and... I mean, look, you're accused of doing the smallest thing and you have a mental breakdown, you know. The husband was executed. You can't even conceive of the pain and suffering. She was in prison for 17 years. Like a miracle, she got out, you know. Was found to be innocent. But this extraordinary woman, I don't think she was a Buddhist. I think she must have read that type of thing. She did yoga and stuff. But at some point, she's, you know, after all this exhaustion, all this losing the children, losing the husband, nobody believing her, seen as a monster, you're a cop killer, evil, and you're totally and completely innocent, you know. And she said, I finally realized I couldn't change anything. But they couldn't take my mind from me. So I decided, I'm not a prisoner, I'm a monk. I'm not in a cell, I'm in a cave. Now, I mean, we love to hear these things, you know, but just try and put yourself in that situation. What we would consider normal behavior would be to go completely insane, to be full of rage, despair, grief, kill yourself. You understand my point? Because when we didn't do something wrong, even a small thing, the pain of being accused of it, we all know is unbearable, isn't it? Absolutely unbearable. We can't, it's like so instinctive, so primordial. And I think that's much of the cause of why we suffer so much on this planet. Now that comes to the second one, even in my situation, and maybe even with her. She didn't talk about karma, but this first point, she understood the miracle, the incredible intelligence, I would say, the emotional intelligence, the unbelievable intelligence and courage of her mind. She was actually able to see that her mind was the point. She couldn't make this different, so she changed her mind. That's all Buddha's saying, and that's even without understanding karma, which is the main cause. Well, the delusion is the main cause, but from the past, that answers the question, why did you get wrongly accused? That maybe she never asked that question. Maybe in your life you don't care why Shuki cheats on you. You don't want a bigger answer, but you're prepared to work on your mind. That's good enough. Are we communicating with this point here? If you don't want to think about karma and reincarnation, that's fine. But have the courage to notice that what does go in your mind is the source of your happiness and suffering. Yep, he cheated. Accept it. It's true. Bad things happen, but then you're going to have we know this. You're a good Jew, religious, anything. People can do this. People everywhere can do this. But all I'm saying is this is what Buddha runs with. That's his expertise. That's his exact point. That's his skill, the methods to do that. But that takes enormous courage. Are we communicating here? You understand what I'm saying, people? It's intense. I mean, we can see the instinctive ego is primordially deep to protect me, to say, no, I didn't do it. And this is part of the suffering of this planet. You know? Even if you did do something, we can't take responsibility for it. It's too painful, you know? But when you didn't do it, and to that degree, that is just, for me, phenomenal. And that's what I admire so much about so many of my friends in prison, you know? They can't change anything, but they know they've discovered they can become happy by changing their minds. So part of that's difficult because it sounds like becoming passive, you know. We can't hear it in a more subtle way. We just hear, oh, well, Shuki's cheating, what the hell, let me put up with it. That's passivity and appalling. And I know what I tend to hear sometimes from Israelis, I'm not you guys, you haven't said anything, but I remember one Israeli person said to me, you know, like well, look where you know, Buddhists have got from being peaceful for the last 60 years with Tibet, you know, like criticising the Dalai Lama for being peaceful and not responding with aggression. Well, I said, with respect to you, look where your aggression's got you. You understand? I mean, so we've got to look at it more carefully. So this is the real point is this. It's not a question of merely saying, oh, well, I'm in prison, what the hell? That's called depression. That's giving up. That's passivity. That's not healthy. The other extreme is violent raging, never giving up, bashing your head against a brick wall, thinking you're being so noble in trying to change it. But the point is, the Dalai Lama for me is a great example. He has never stopped trying to change things. That woman worked on her freedom for 17 years. But meanwhile, she became a happy person. Dalai Lama, it's evident to anybody with half a brain, it seems to me. He has never given up. He does not give up, ever, on Tibet. He's tried every method for 60 years. Diplomatically, socially, spiritually, politically. He never gives up, trying to find a way. But he's a happy guy. That's the point. So it doesn't mean you put up with it, which is passivity, or you keep raging and never stop bashing your head against a brick wall. And there are two modes. You get my point here? So when we begin to realise this in my relationship with Shuki, and I discover he's cheating, then I've got some decisions to make. It's got to be a lot of work, but our problem is, how dare he do it? You're so evil, you're horrible, I love you, you don't love me, and I keep going back like a moth to a flame until he kills me or I kill him. So what's the option? That's the point. You come down to it. If you really look bluntly and brutally, I have got two options. Stay or leave. The same with the job. The same with your mother. The same with your troublemaking sister. But we don't, not only do we think we can leave the relationship, we get guilty and we shouldn't, so we go back like a moth to a flame, but nor do we realise we can change our mind. So we're stuck in misery. You go back to the same job for 50 years, miserable. Hate the boss, hate the colleagues. Why don't you leave? Oh, no, I can't do that. I can't get a job. Then it's like you know there's no responsibility. You blame the job, you blame yourself, and you don't do anything about it. That's the problem. We become victims, complete paralysed victims. So there's two options, but this is enormously painful. So if I do realise there's enough in the relationship that it's worth staying, and I can make that choice if I want to, then I work on my mind and I stay. Or I can't cope, don't blame him, bye Shuki, I'm out of here. But it seems so simple, and it is, but it needs a lot of grown-up attitude to do it. The other view is victim. Totally victim and paralysis, and we go crazy, you know. Go crazy. And then feel justified for going crazy. Or you're in that same relationship for 40 years, and this is the trouble of the victim mentality. You do become paralysed. You do feel powerless. I'm not criticising us. This is what it does to us. You can't see any options. And then 40 years later, you kill your abusive husband. This is the nightmare of these delusions, you know. You become paralysed. Can't see past our own nose. So even more powerful then, you would suggest, from the Buddha's view, is not only my crazy jealousy is the problem, but the past action is what set me up for him to cheat on me. That's even heavier. So I always use this example too, this story. In 2003, when I was running the prison project, Liberation Prison Project in America, And Richard Gere was in New York, as you know, he's a good Buddhist and everything. He organised a meeting of the Dalai Lama, and then he wanted to collaborate on some work with ex-prisoners, so he did his own thing eventually. And he invited 20 former prisoners, all Americans, black, white, Puerto Rican, male, female, a cross-section of Americans, okay? All of whom had done some kind of, meditation in prison. And it was a very moving day. He invited a couple of people like me who work with people. It was a very moving day, all talking about their suffering and the dramas and the racism and this and the that, And then he also invited 2 young Tibetan nuns who'd been tortured and sexually abused in Tibet, okay, for being little Buddhist nuns who don't even kill a fly, for God's sake, So clearly in this life they've done nothing wrong, clearly. So this is an interesting point, because therefore they would never have had the question, why is this happening to me? That's why mostly I think we suffer so unbearably on this planet. Because in this life, we didn't do anything. She did nothing to those police. I've never cheated on him. And if we all believe we began in our mother's womb, then it's a logical question to ask, why is this happening to me? I don't deserve it. You are right if you began in your mother's womb. So now that's half of our suffering on this planet, I think. The unfairness, the suffering of humans, and we don't have an answer why. Now, if you have faith in God, you do have an answer. Like I told you, those Malaysian mummy and daddy. How do you feel about your dead daughter, the one who fell in the ocean? She belongs to God. He has taken her back. So that's their view, and at least it makes them happy. But look at the materialist one. Go mad. At the same time I read about this woman, I also read about some bloke who was also on death row and who was also innocent. And I mean, there are so many of these in America. It's just beyond bearing, This guy would be what we call normal. He went completely out of his brain, raging and yelling all day as long as he had a voice. I did not rape and kill that woman. I did not rape and kill that woman. So he went completely mad. That's what we consider normal, because he doesn't know. Okay, he can't change anything. That's bad enough, but he doesn't realize he can change his mind. And this is heavy for us, because it seems like for us we're blaming ourselves. It's got nothing to do with blame. It's self-respect, It's recognizing we have a mind that's full of delusions and pain. And all Buddha's trying to get us to do is, this is why we suffer, and this should break our hearts for ourselves, not guilt. Guilt is a hideous response to this stuff. It's nothing to do with anything. That takes time, because we run to guilt. So this woman, I don't think she became a Buddhist. I don't think so. I remember she did yoga. But extraordinary courage and extraordinary intelligence and humility, you'd have to say that. To actually let go of that hopelessness, Nobody could believe her. Nobody saw the truth. But she changed herself. That's incredible. So these young women, they were telling their story. And this is the thing that I think shocked the Americans, which is ordinary people like you and me. They weren't angry. And this is what I'm talking about here. Listen, remember I said before, the Buddhist view about the mind, all the emotions, which is the expression at the top level of everything, are informed deep down by philosophical stories, conceptual elaboration. So anger is a story. Anger is an opinion. And it's saying, how dare you do that to me? I don't deserve it. Why are you cheating on me? The horror, the pain, the rage, the hurt, the anger. It's a philosophical view, which is based on a whole series of assumptions, which is instinctive within us. So these young women didn't have that view. Therefore, they didn't have anger. Those 2 Muslim mummy and daddy didn't have that view. They said God has a plan, and they trust his plan. So they don't say, why did this happen to our daughter? They had their answer. These young nuns had theirs, which is called karma. So that became genuine practice for them. Young women, sexually abused and tortured. So at the end of it, they were quiet. They talked about their suffering. And then at the end, one of them said quietly, and of course, we had compassion for our torturers, because we knew we must have harmed them in the past, and because we know they will suffer unbearably in the future for the harm they're doing us. Now that's the basis of compassion. That's why the wisdom wing has to come first. Once we get this for ourselves, once we have like compassion for ourselves, if you like, which is humility and recognizing up, we put our own ridiculous selves in this ridiculous situation. I've got this ridiculous karma with this ridiculous person. I must have harmed him before. Now the egg is on my face. What am I going to do about it? Stop harming others and work on my mind. That's the practice. Then you can see everybody else, oh my God, we're all in the same boat, you know. And compassion is based on that wisdom. Are we communicating? It's not easy. Oh my God. Now it's lunchtime, isn't it? Relax, have lunch.